So we have the entrepreneurship journey with Heaven that will be handled with my colleague Ahmed. The mic is yours.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Hi Heaven. Welcome to our meetup today.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the pitch, startup speech so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is your life going? How is what you're doing now in your entrepreneurship
Well,
journey?
as an entrepreneur, you're always on the move.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
always need to rethink and redirect in every type of way. So for now, my biggest focus is I really want to change the way the Nordic countries are using aid money. So I've been working and lobbying, talking to governmental people for the past 2.5 years. And so for what I want to do is, instead of just basic aid, I want nations to use that money to actually invest in startups or in minor SMEs, just to when we think about sustainability. And in October, we finally signed a contract to prove a point for 2 years. So we got 5 million to prove a point that people actually want to invest in African startups. So we are building the platform. So now I'm doing a lot of research, a lot of interviews, and trying to build this investment platform for making sure African startups in Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia get funding. Most people don't know that even if the growth of investing in the African market is growing, 98% of that is actually to non-Africans. And that's what we want to change. So we need to prove a point for nations, and we'll see what happens. So that's the main focus. And the second one is Bambino Foundation. We're building a hospital, a school, and a clinic. Is going really slow because the pandemic hit everyone. So we're working on that, trying to be, creative. What can we start with? What can we, change the priorities? And of course, trading is a huge part of my life, so that continues. Well, forever.
Impressive work. Can I ask, how did you reach this point of you want to change the investment for the startups toward African startups? Was it your personal journey or lesson learned or what?
Well, that's a good question, because basically my journey started 11 years ago, which is sick. Juan, you might remember our time working as phone salespersons. So what you probably don't know is I'm a pharmacist. And during my pharmacy studies, I wanted to study economics, and then I started a little bit, and then I finished my pharmacy because, as a second generation refugee, you have that pressure to do something real good. So I still continued my education. But during my studies, I was blessed of having an extra work as a phone salesperson, where I met Juan back in the days when we were young and had parties and worked as a phone salesperson. And it's the best lesson I ever had in my life, because being an entrepreneur is about dealing the no's, which can be quite a lot. It can be maybe, and even as a phone salesperson, you know that basically you're going in for work for 8 hours, knowing that 99% of the people will be rude and hang up. But you know that if you just can convert that 1%, is a game changing, and I got my salary and I can do some impact. So I'm forcing I have 4 kids in my household, 2 of my own, 2 bonuses. And I'm forcing everyone to work as a phone salesperson because it's a life-changing, great education that I don't think school have today. So in that sense, I also met really cool people, Juan being one of them, but also a lot of white dudes who were building their own computers, which I thought was very interesting. I like observing people being odd. So for me, that was quite odd. And they were also mining Bitcoin. And I was like, mining Bitcoin. And a few of you are probably too young, but I still remember when we got internet in our cell phones and how that changed our behavior. We went from, not having, we were not even in need on going to the ATMs. I saw ATMs shutting down. I saw that we were sending money to each other before Swish was invented. So seeing that, behavior change made me be more interested of cryptocurrency and Forex and economics. And then that led me to financial inclusion. And if you started to wrap that up, you're starting to see the inequality in so many levels. And then I'm just trying to figure out where can I do my impact, basically. So, and that has been going on now and probably continue to the day I die. So.
Nice. Can you tell us more about the project itself, like Bambino Foundation, and what you're doing there? You're working in 3 countries, as I know, in Africa.
Yeah. So Bambino Foundation, it was basically a project I started during my studies together with Pharmacists Without Borders. And back then, I just thought it was going to be a one-time thing. But as you know, knowledge, when you start to, gain more knowledge on actually how the world works financially, governmentally, you see, it was difficult for me to just do a one-time thing. And I decided to trying to see whatever I can do, and I just built that up. So basically what we do is we, support local organizations that do anything for kids, when, access to healthcare and now also education. And then with amazing people, because I was I would say I worked in the, behind the scenes. I didn't do accelerator programs or startup kind of, all these difficult, different type of initiatives there are today. It's basically what just doing and, promoting and trying to find people who was interested to listen to my story and see if they could help. And that led to now basically where we are actually building a hospital and a school and a clinic. So yeah.
How do you see it? That's a very interesting story. Like, especially, I know you were born in northern of Sweden, and like what was the inspiration of this idea of going and investing in Africa?
Well, I'm born in Eritrea, so I'm Eritrean, but I came to Kiruna when I was 2. So I'm brought up in the north of Sweden. Back then, I thought that was a curse, if I'm going to be honest. But right now, I think that was a blessing because you could really know what people were about. I think it was less inequality. I just lived in Stockholm now for almost 3 years. And I see that it's been a lot of inequalities and different types of access to knowledge and finance, which because I've been in a very small town with only 3,000 people, that made me have more access to basically what Sweden as a country could offer rather than being in Stockholm. So I think that I just don't have the limitations that I've seen a few people have here in bigger cities. I will not be afraid of asking anything.
Can I also ask, as I see from the project, you are a solo founder, if I can call it that, like you are creating your own project and you follow it on. Do you have any philosophy behind that? You didn't try to look for a partner or a co-founder because I assume it's a lot of work.
Well, that's not entirely true. It is correct. I started on my own. But in the beginning, we were also very dependent on donations. Like every foundation, I thought that was took a lot of my time. So I actually started a trading school where I teach people how to trade cryptocurrencies and Forex. And every student pay around, it can be different depending on what type of online course they want to join. But let's say the cheapest one we have is about £300. And then 70% of that goes directly to Bambino Foundation. So now they call it social entrepreneurship. But for me, it was just, I needed to find a way where I could earn more money and do more impact. I don't see that those two things have to collide, basically. So for me, it's, and then the earliest students that I had are now my founders in the trading school. So in meantime, I started to, basically for 4 years, I met Thomas. He was, I was trying to come out in that sense, because I really wanted to work alone, but I also realized that marketing, and if I want to scale up, then you have to start pitching outside your own comfort zone. So I started to, tell my story. I started to be part of different types of företagarna in Stockholm and Göteborgspriset, met Thomas and other types of entrepreneurs that made amazing things. And now it's just blew up and scaled up in different ways. So
nice. And I like the concept of using the advanced technology of cryptocurrency and trading, and you're putting it into a social impact. How is it going so far? Like, is it enough money, or you also depend on other sources of investment?
No, we do accept other sources, but we are actually dependent of donations today.
Now I think we almost this time. I will open it up for the audience to ask questions as well. You can just unmute yourself and ask.
I think there's one in the chat, maybe.
Or, yeah.
What is my best tip for social
entrepreneur?
Well, for me, entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. I know people starting to, do this definition as, you have a profit entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur. For me, I had never, I believe you do good and do impact. So my best tip is just to continue to try to see every hurdle and hindrance that you will probably meet up, maybe twice a day even, to see how you can turn that into a stepping stone, because that's basically what we entrepreneurs do. We want to see if we can solve and find a new solution. And it's okay to cry, and it's okay to be mad, in your corner, but then you have to, pick yourself up and trying to find a new creative way, be open to collaborate with other people. And for me, the best tip has been for me is when I started to be more open and starting to pitch, online and also in different, networks groups. It was also trying to find like-minded people. I thought that was a blessing, where I could talk to other people who didn't see me as a crazy person, because entrepreneurs are a little bit crazy. We do take risks and we try a lot. So just having that part of a community and network was very helpful, especially when you have a little bit struggling, struggling times.
I have another question. It's I'm also wondering, in the early days when you started Bambino Foundation, what was like the main challenges, or the challenges that you faced and you went through it back in that time?
Well, it's the lack of knowledge. It's a lack of not knowing if I should go right and left. And then I figure out I can just go left, and if that doesn't work out, I just go right. So the challenge could be in so many different ways, depending what type of environment. It could be, I went to Ivory Coast as an East African woman diaspora, going to Ivory Coast, which is the West African Francophone country. It's very main hierarchy. So I even, talked to my taxi driver and asked if he could be Mr. Bereket, just, so I could get into the door. And then and then I said, no, it's me. So, you have to be very creative in different ways. But I think I was blessed with my father's advice. And I think I can share that with you too. So when I was 17, I moved out when I was 17. And before I moved out, my dad told me, like, okay, Heaven, just so you know, you are a Black young woman living in Sweden. And I know you have plans for yourself. You want to see the world and whatnot. And I just want to make sure that you know that there will be doors closed for you, but that doesn't mean the room is not for you. So just make sure you get to the room, even if it's not through the door. You have the window, you have the chimney, you have the sewer through the toilet. Just make sure you have access to the room. And that I didn't realize what was he talking about, but when I started, go out in the real world, I really understood that, okay, there are type of gatekeepers in different sense. And it can be because I'm a woman, it can be because I'm Black, it can be, it can be all type. It can be that I don't have the knowledge enough or the right clothes enough or whatever, but it still doesn't mean that I don't have access to the room. So for me, it was just trying to figure out how can I get access to the knowledge and the information and type of, basically knowledge to, push it through.
That's very impressive. Anyone? Bjorn, go ahead.
Yes. Bjorn Clemming. I sneaked into the meeting
Welcome.
when you had already started, and I'm curious about the format of your meeting, so that's why I joined. I'm head of vocational services in the Rotary district. So at the district level, we are working a lot with mentorship. We are sponsoring startups. We have a collaboration with an incubator in Järva, which is outside Stockholm. It's an area where we have a lot of immigrants and a lot of social problems and social possibilities. So we're working with Bling, and I was curious about Heaven's story here. Heaven, did you join with Bling, or have you heard about Bling?
Yeah, I've heard about Bling, absolutely. And that's also very interesting. So for me, growing up in north of Sweden, coming to Stockholm, as people assume that I was from the suburb here in Stockholm, but I really don't have the experience in that sense. But I know of Bling, and I think I have, I'm going to do a workshop or talk with them in April as well.
Okay, great.
But I found that I started to find different cultural, cultural in different type of way.
Okay, cultural difficulties or opportunities?
Yeah, depends on how you see it, but yeah, it was very new. So it took time for me to understand where the problem was in different parts of the big cities in Sweden.
But actually, I think that Bling could be of use to you because they have a great network and they are joining up with investors now. They have an investor program. So if you're, and they also work, they not only work with commercial entrepreneurs, but also with social entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Can I jump in here? Because we're almost running out of time.
Okay.
Thanks, Bjorn, for your question. We have some questions in the chat as well. There is a question about what's the investment structure commitment you have planned for the aid investment that you're doing now in Africa?
What we're looking for now is equity crowdfunding and peer-to-peer lending. So we're trying to figure out the different types of structures because now we're trying to figure out the legal framework, but also bank frameworks, because the investment will probably come from any type of Western country. It can be from private people. It can also be maybe companies that, behalf of that company, they will invest, or professional investors. So we need to figure out, depending which country we're talking about, that, the connection behind the scenes needs to be correct. So we haven't figured all that out, but we will within a year.
Yeah, good luck with the project. There is another question. I missed it. It's about your medical background and pharmaceutical studies, and how did you utilize that knowledge and background in your projects now? And
how do you manage to fill in that knowledge gap?
Yeah.
Well, I'm still learning, so I don't think I ever will close the knowledge gap. But I use everything I know, and I ask a lot of questions with two people I think everyone that I meet, young or older, have something to teach me. Sometimes it can be like, okay, I do not want to be like that, or I don't want to go that route. That also is a learning. So for me, I'm always in the learning stage. So I use it all the time.
Any questions from the audience?
I think, David, you have a question.
Well, I don't have a question. I would more, I put my hand up because I want to give an advice to the pitchers in this forum. Listen to Heaven. What does she really tell you? I mean, she's enthusiastic about her business idea. She's really brave, and she has made a lot of conclusions during her journey. So I would suggest that you really pick up all these signals that she's sending to you. That's just to summarize from me.
Thank you, David. Thank you for that. And we are very impressed, Heaven, with your journey so far. And good luck with your future goals. And at the end of our conversation, do you have any highlight or an advice that you want to share to the young entrepreneurs who want to start, in addition to the story that you mentioned?
Great and do you. You will meet a lot of people that will try to redirect you in the things that you don't want to. Make sure you're grounded to yourself and to your business. Even if you do the wrong choice, you can just turn to the other side or the other route. But also for me, I don't have the sense of urgency because I'm planning to do this to the day I die. I don't, it doesn't matter for me. It's going to be tomorrow. If it's going to be in 50 years, I'm in here for the long run.
Yeah. Then we're reaching our end of the conversation. And thank you so much, Heaven, for your time you spent with us.
Thank you.
Very inspiring story.
Thank you, and good luck to all the new entrepreneurs. It's going to be a wild ride.